Hello everyone, my name is Nathan and today it's time for another episode of Starmade. In the previous episode, unfortunately, something happened, namely the last 3 minutes of the video got cut off and you didn't see the actual results of the contraption, you didn't see the final showing off part basically. And I do apologize for that, just sometimes stuff happens with your footage that you cannot control and I do not have the possibility to re-upload that, but what I can do is show you what I basically have done in those last 3 minutes. You didn't miss much. However, right here we have our compartment. Right now the ship is inside of this compartment and what we can do is of course use this button in order to bring it outside. The door will automatically open, this thing will move out and it will stop at the end right here. Eventually it will undock itself as well, hopefully. Ah yes, and during the undocking process it will also reset all of the rails so that another ship can actually come in. However, let's set up the ship in a way as if we just docked and now we are gonna try to move the ship inside of the compartment again. Okay, there we go. Here we have this situation that I just described. The door is open. The rails currently are set the other way so that I can initiate the process and we can actually observe it. It is quite unobservable when you're inside the ship. However, let's press this button and get the thing started. Yeah, there we go. We are docking in. The ship is turning around beautifully and it is moving inside of the compartment, getting snuggled in, and once it is there, the door closes. Easy as that. There you go, guys. I'm really sorry, but let's get to the actual part of this episode, which is gonna be concerned with a lockable door with a password, and if you don't get the password right, then the whole system will lock down again and you have to start from the beginning. We can do this with how many combinations we actually want. We can use, I don't know, maybe 4 digits. That gives us quite a bunch of possibilities and I think it is probably secure enough. Maybe we go with 5. After all, they are not really digits, they are just blocks, so there are quite a few less combinations than you would have with digits. But again, I think it is more about the principle. I want to set up a concept and have a really nifty system that also goes with a bunch of nice effects. And I think actually we're gonna do this on a testing platform. So let me set something up and I'll be right back. Okay guys, here we go. I think I got something set up with which we can start. Namely, what I have here is a similar door to which we have built in the previous episode. I can use these buttons in order to open it up and I can use this one in order to close it back down. However, on the outside I now want to place a bunch of locks which will only unlock if you get the combination right. And for that purpose I think we're gonna build some new vessels, but first of all we have to set up something. We're gonna place 2 basic rails right here. The orientation doesn't matter right now because we're gonna place a bunch of blocks to steer that anyways, and I think we can do this right away. We're gonna have one right here facing into different directions and then we have 2 buttons next to it and this is gonna steer those 2 blocks and this is gonna steer those 2 blocks. Now we can say we want it in the closed stage first, so the rails are pointing into the inner direction. The shadows are really strange today, so we're gonna place 2 more. This is gonna steer the left side, and of course, as with all concept episodes, we're not gonna try to hide the logic too much. We're more concerned about the basic functionality. I should have 2 vessels. Yeah, there we go, there is the other one, and we can just move inside of that and we can dock it. I already set it to be hopefully placed correctly, so let's just try to dock this thing. There we go, hopefully without any issues, and yeah, there we go. The lava block is the actual stopper block, as you can see, which is now preventing the door from opening theoretically. And we can move into the other one over here and we want to dock this right here. It is facing the correct way, so let's have a better look at that going back into our ship core here. Okay, and there we go. The 2 lava blocks are preventing the door from opening. If I try to open it, nothing will happen. If I try to close it, nothing will happen. But if we used some buttons, let's see, I'm gonna use 1 button to lock and 1 button to unlock. So let's say this is unlocking. We're gonna select this guy and hook it up with this one and this one. I kind of have the feeling we could do this more elegantly by just placing it here in the center. You know, we're gonna have like 2 buttons on top of each other, then the lower one is gonna be the unlocked stage, hooked up with this and this guy here, and the upper one will unlock everything and hook it up like so. Hey, look at that. Now we don't have too many ugly connections going on here, but we can use these buttons in order to unlock both of the locks, or or lock them. Unlocked, we should be able to open the door. Yeah, beautiful. I don't know, this looks kind of ugly. It is just a concept door. Don't panic, guys. Okay, maybe let's get rid of the lighten mode. Yeah, this looks slightly better. So, what do you think about that? Now we only have to do the lock combination somehow. So let me think about that quickly. I want to have at least 4 blocks. So you need to get the blocks in the correct order for the door to unlock. And if you don't get it right, then this red lamp will pop up. And if you get it right, the green lamp will pop up. The door will unlock and open. That is the basic aim. So let me think about that a little bit more and I'll be right back. Okay guys, so I thought about the system for a little bit and I figured it is best to actually do it with rails. The reason for that is because with rails we can also decide for a specific order in which the blocks have to be activated. This means we are not only working with AND gates and can have a unspecific order of the 4 buttons that we want to activate, we can have a very specific order, and if the order is not correct after you pressed 4 times, then the whole system should reset itself. Hopefully we can achieve that actually together. I already set up a system right here. This here is the default stage, which means the door is locked. And if we get the first combination right, then the rail will switch and go to this one right here. If we then get the second combination right, it will move to the third rail. If we get the third one right, we move one further. And finally, with the 4th combination, we will actually open up the door by activating this module, the unlocking mechanism, which is down here, so we can hook this up, and after a short delay it should also open up the door. So here we're gonna implement a delay. After the delay we can open up the door, and hopefully this will be enough delay. Let's assume we have all 4 digits right and we activate the door, and there we go, it actually opens up. The delay is enough. That's great. Yeah, it's not very beautifully set up, but as I said, it is just a concept episode and we want to get the logic right before we think about more designs and implementation. Okay, so now we have to decide for a combination, and for simplicity's sake I decided that the right combination is using the first activation module, then the second, then the third, then the 4th. Right, so if we use the first one, then we should hook it up to this guy, and I've already done that apparently. So that means we get the first combination right and it will move one further. Oh yeah, we might want to set up the default stage a little bit differently so that it doesn't move back and forth. I mean, we can have something like that, just pointing sideways with a button hooked up to all of these guys, and if we use that right there it will come to a halt. Okay, so now we use the first one and it should only move one further. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so we got the first combination right, then we need to have the second combination right, or the second input digit, and we use that. It moves one further. I also hook this one up so it moves one further, and I hook this one up so it moves to the final spot. And this guy right here, of course, opens up the door. Great! Now we need to close the door, which means we would need to use this button first. And then after a short delay, we need to use this one on the top. Yeah, this is the locking mechanism. So let's do another delay right here. Hook this up. And the delay we're gonna hook up to the upper one right there. I hope you still have the overview, but it isn't too complicated as of yet. Okay, so now I can use this button to lock the door, and oh no, we need more delay. So after this delay, we're gonna have one more delay block, and this delay block is then gonna lock the door, and now hopefully this will work. Yeah. Oh yeah, look at that. We should actually, once we reach the end of the line, also reset everything so it goes back to the first slot. So how to do that? We cannot do it right next to it. We have to use maybe another button, and then the rails need to be facing into this direction, so the block will move backwards. And we of course want to select this guy and hook it up with each of these rails. So therefore, once we reach this spot, it should reset itself. The rails are facing into this direction, so that means once we reach this block right here, we should also activate this module, so the rails get reset into the default stage like so it doesn't go back and forth. So far so good. Now we have another problem. These modules will still be activated. I want them to shut off again. We could theoretically use buttons if I think about it, but I rather have a button right here which is actually dictating all of these guys, so we should also hook this up. Let's actually test this. So if we get the first one right, we get the second one right, the third one right, and the fourth one right, and it resets the whole contraption. The lights are no more functioning, and look at that, the default stage is achieved. Okay, now we need to think about when we get the combination wrong. That means, for instance, we get the first one right, but then we use the third one, and this should give out an error so that we cannot actually do it anymore. Right now the door doesn't close automatically, but I think I want to do this with an area trigger maybe. Once we move through the door, this area trigger could activate this module, and therefore, whoop, the door will close. And of course I cannot activate the area trigger like so, but let's just assume the person would activate it. The door closes and locks again. So now you will have to give me some time to think about the failure conditions. They are gonna be much more complicated than what we have so far, at least I assume so. Yeah, let me think about that. Okay guys, I think I finally figured out something that we could potentially utilize, and let me tell you, it is a little bit more complex, but we can get our head around it. Trust me on that. Let me just first show you what we have, how it is functional, and then we're gonna continue building the rest of the module. I built the two first digits, and we now actually have a controlling mechanism that lets us check at which input stage we are. So we can only input like 4 buttons, and once we have done that, then we have to try new. So even if we get it wrong at the first digit, we still have to enter the 3 other digits before we can start new, and we have no idea if we get it wrong or right. What is happening right now is whatever button we are pressing, oh yeah, I exchanged those with buttons instead of activation modules, was way easier. I also changed the password combination. Right now the first digit is number 1 right here, then the second digit would be number 3, the third digit would be number 5, and the final digit would be number 7 right here. And we have to put them in this particular order, and of course once we know about the concept, we can also go for a little bit more difficult password combinations. However, no matter what we do, if we press for instance this third button right here, we can see we are going to the second digit. So even though I got the first button wrong, we are now at the second input stage, and you can also see that our unlocking mechanism right here didn't continue, and therefore even if we get the next digits right, we will not be able to reach the end of the line and open up the door. So I could get another number wrong and another number wrong, and now we are at the resetting stage. I'm not yet sure how I do want to set this up, but right now I can just press this button and the whole contraption will reset itself and we can start from anew. Now one thing that we're not going to build is this clock right here, or the checking mechanism, so let me just explain you that. The way it works is that I have a module right here next to the rails, an activation module in the spots where we don't actually need to hold. So it will be the first input to this AND gate, and over here we have the resetting mechanism, which is setting all the rails so we can go back to the very first slot, and we have a little NOT gate right here, so whenever I don't reset, this NOT gate will be activated, and therefore the AND gates are just waiting for the input of the rail. And whenever we have this input, then the rails will do a basic reset. If we hit this button, then this will happen, and you can see that it is basically moving to the next slot and getting stuck right there. It's the most elegant system I could come up with, you know, going to the next stage very easily, even if we get the input wrong. But now more importantly, if we get the input correct, so if we press this first button, then what should happen is we also move forward to the next slot. This is still the same thing, but also we will be able to activate this AND gate. And now of course this AND gate only gets activated if we are at the first input stage and also enter the correct number, and that is very important. And of course right here we can now place a basic rail, and what we want to do is hook this guy up to our first slot. So only if we get it right at that particular slot, then we will be able to move on. Let's check if that actually happens. We are at the first input number and I activate it, and both of the modules are functioning, as you can see, and we will have to reset that too. We will have to think about this as well. So once we entered all 4 digits, then these rails of course should change as well. However, if we enter the wrong number, then only this will happen and this guy will not move, and therefore we will not be able able to complete it. Very, very nice. So let's go through one of these modules together. But before I forget, I also want to set this one up right here. And I just see that it would be better to place this on the top. So we hook this one up to the second rail in case we get the second input right. However, now we start placing a bunch of modules. The first one that I want is an OR signal. To this OR signal, we're gonna hook everything up that is not supposed to be pressed. This would be the correct input. So we do not want to use that, but we want to hook up every other input so that this OR gate will be activated whenever we get it wrong. What we have to do is hook this button up to an AND gate. If we press this button, then we have it correct, but it is only correct if we are also at this input stage, and therefore we also have to have this button activated. Only if both of these signals are true, then we want to change the rail down here, the third one it should be, yeah. But we do not have this OR gate hooked up to anything just yet. Oh, I just realized that we might not need that, actually. Yeah, actually I can make it much easier. We don't need these OR gates. That means we have to have the right slot and the right number. And if we get it wrong, then it will continue to the next one anyways. And because we need enough correct numbers to reach the end right here, this will also work out. Hooray! I need much less modules and connections. What the heck was I thinking? Anyways, we're basically done here. We can do this with the last module. So this one here is going to be our last correct digit. Oh yeah, and I just realized, of course, the NOT gates are also unnecessary. Oh man, getting rid of so many modules that I so carefully placed. Anyways, we need an AND signal right here, which is going to be activated with this guy. This is the correct button once we are at the fourth stage. So we have to hook this one up, and then we use the last rail, and we want to hook this one up to the fourth stage right here. And therefore, once we get that right, it should be going to the fourth spot and therefore open up the door just like that. Great. Of course, this is a little bit ugly. We could actually move this over here. Yeah, now that we have all of this free space, we should do that. I'm gonna remove that. There we go. Now we're gonna hook up each of these buttons to this activation module. Okay, now we only need to take care of the resetting mechanism. Once we have reached this stage, the system should decide whether or not to open up the door. No, the system should simply reset, right? This means we need to activate this button here permanently, and this could be an issue. What we could do though is hook it up to this resetting mechanism, so at least we will reset the actual unlocking mechanism, but we still have to find a way to activate this thing here permanently and not just for a short amount of time. Let me think about this. If we get the first number right, this happens. Then we get the second number right, then this happens. Then we get the third number right, which should be here. This happens. Yeah, we cannot have the resetting mechanism right here. What was I thinking? We have to input, of course, one more digit. Ah man, maybe I need to have activation modules after all. With activation modules, I could actually do it, right? Let me just try this out. Right, so what I basically did is exchange this with a button and all of these with activation modules. So now if we activate one, this button will just give out a signal for a short amount of time and therefore change the rails just like we did before, but the activation modules will remain lit. This will prevent us to have combinations that use the same blocks, but alas, there is worse. If we reach the final stage, then what should happen is we go to this block and this should then reset the whole contraption. We do this with a button, I guess. We are gonna first reset the rails right here, which means if we reach the end of the line, the unlocking mechanism will reset. Okay, I think I did it. I'm not sure yet. This is such a wonky solution that I have here. So if we have entered the fourth digit, it will continue the line to this block right here, therefore activating this activation module, which is connected up to this NOT signal. That means the NOT signal will turn off, and once we go back to the rail, it will turn on again, and therefore enabling the resetting mechanism. And once we are all the way back right here, this will enable another mechanism with just a button, so a short signal to disable this one again. Jeez, I don't even know what I said. Well, I actually do know. However, let's try. We enter the first number, we enter the second number, we enter the fourth number, that was the third number, and now we enter the fourth number, and hopefully the system will reset correctly. And holy bejeez, holy cow, it did it! It did it! It actually did it. I'm so happy. The only thing, of course, it did not reset was all of these buttons. Maybe we can achieve that. I got it. I got it. Okay, let's put it to a test. Let's freaking put this to a test. So first number wrong, second number wrong, third number wrong, and we get the fourth number wrong, and now it should do a freaking reset. There we go. The lamps will be lighting up, and now the contraption is reset. But also, we did have a slight issue right here. So I guess this final button right here should also prevent this from happening by activating this thing, which is the resetting mechanism right here. Okay, let's put this to a test once more. Got the first number wrong. We got the second number actually correct, as you can see. Also the rail changed. We get the third number wrong, and we get the fourth number correct. There we go. We are going through a resetting mechanism. All of the modules will be activated, and oh my gosh, it worked out. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Let's actually input the correct command. So we get the first number right, we get the second number right, we get the third number right, and we get the fourth number right, and oh, the door is opening. And we have time to walk through. Then we activate this area module thingy-majingy, and the door will close behind us and also lock itself again. The problem is this connection right here. What we want to do is disable that and let it move into a delay signal, and then this delay signal will reset it. And just to be on the very safe side, we could do a double reset. So we first gonna reset the rails when we reset the whole contraption, and then there is another reset just to make sure. Okay, so let's put this to a final test. We get the first number right, we get the second number right, perfect. We get the third number right, and oh, I make a mistake, and the fourth number we don't get right, so we have some resetting stuff going on, and another reset. I love it. Let's get the combination right once more. Third right, then we get the fourth right. I always skip the third in my mind, but now we get the fourth right, and the door is opening. We can go through, area trigger, and door closes behind us. I think I thought of everything now. Holy bejeez, guys, let me know what you think about that. Where could we implement that? I guess I kind of plan to do something like that for my planetary base. I was thinking about working on that a little bit more again. I think we got a pretty solid system. Of course, we would need to make the combination a little bit more difficult, but we can just, you know, do this as we please. Instead of hooking this up right here, we can just disable this connection and make it the second one. So now the second module is actually the correct first one. So that is pretty good. You can just change the combination to whatever you like by connecting something up. But other than that, I would say we're gonna end the episode right at this point. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave your feedback, likes, comments down below. Have a great time, and hopefully I'm gonna catch you in the next one. Bye bye.